Hey there, I am just wanting to bring you or introduce you to how your pelvic floor muscles are affected by the pressure that's within your core system as a reason as to why you might have some leaking during exercise, heavy lifting, impact exercise, all of those things. And it's all to do with your breathing and how you manage the pressures within your core. Often after you have had your babies, things in this core system function a lot differently. Baby has grown up right into those lungs, and that causes us to breathe a little bit better. We tend to breathe a little bit higher up into our shoulders, and this breathing muscle at the bottom of your lungs, your diaphragm, is not functioning properly. Okay, so I have a balloon to help demo this. All right, so your core is made up of this diaphragm muscle at the top, your pelvic floor muscles at the bottom, and your deep core muscles, your transverse abdominal muscles, and your back muscles at the back. Okay, it works like a balloon, I like to explain, or like a canister. Okay, so when pressure is placed on the bottom, that pressure goes out the bottom, signs everywhere else within the canister. Okay, so this hopefully gives you a little bit of an insight as to why breathing is super important. And I've had some fantastic results by helping women breathe better through mobilizing the upper body, and in fact the entire body, with some active mobility exercises before they do their sport, or just becoming consistent with that so that they can breathe better. Okay, so your ribs have to breathe at the size, so you need to breathe, inflate those lungs. This diaphragm muscle is like this, and when we breathe in, it comes down like this, and then we breathe out, it goes like this. Okay, so breathing in and breathing out. Now, after having babies, that area of least resistance, that front tummy, usually is where that breath goes. The back muscles are pretty tight, the side muscles are even pretty tight. So if we use some mobility to get those muscles, allow your ribs and those muscles all surrounding that rib cage to allow you to breathe better, then you are able to control that core pressure. So if you're not breathing properly, you're potentially constantly putting pressure down on your pelvic floor muscles, putting you at risk of leaking and prolapse, pelvic organ prolapse, where your bladder or your uterus or your bowel falls into your vagina, sometimes outside of your vagina, not ideal, right? So managing intra-abdominal pressure is really key, and even doing things like sucking in your belly button is going to put pressure going up and going down. So I like to use the cues when we activate our core is to imagine wrapping yourself with a corset. We're wanting that tummy to flatten, okay, and we're wanting to use our breath, exhale on the hard part to lift that pressure off as you breathe out. So you can see how that pressure would rise off. And so if we talk about pelvic floor exercises, even if your pelvic floor muscles are nice and strong and functional, maybe they're not functional. If you think they're strong, that's great, but do they have that full range of motion to be able to let go and respond when we jump and impact? It's a bit like a bicep curl, so we need it to be able to lengthen to be able to get that good activation. The same with those pelvic floor muscles. So let me show you the pelvic floor muscles for a minute. I have my trusty little pelvis here. Okay, so this is your pelvis. You have your external pelvic floor muscles here, all this red area, okay? They run from the sits bones across and from the pubic bone at the front right through to the tailbone at the back. Okay, they're like a sling of muscles that sit at the bottom of your pelvis. They obviously control your toileting functions. hold all your abdominal organs in, literally stop them from falling out, and play a part in sexual stimulation. Okay, these muscles there's an outer layer and an internal layer. So step number one to making sure we're connecting with these muscles correctly is that you are actually able to draw in and lift up and let go back down again to their resting state. Okay, and that is the movement of those red muscles only, not your butt muscles. So we don't want to squeeze ourselves in and up and then let go. It needs to be a secret. Okay, so doing your pelvic floor muscles and down, butts nice and relaxed, paws nice and relaxed as you're lifting up. What you can do is incorporate your breath with this. So inhale down, that pelvic floor muscle is at its resting state, and on your exhale you're going to draw in and up, and on your inhale you're going to let that pelvic floor go back down. You want to make sure that you're only going 10, 20, 30% effort and then back down again, not up and then down all the time. Okay, but ultimately that breath is going to play a big part in helping re-coordinate that whole core function so that that pressure is not being placed down on your pelvic floor muscles, causing you uncomfortable symptoms. If you are having uncomfortable symptoms like you're leaking or your heaviness in your vagina, like a prolapse kind of symptom, pelvic pain, all of those things, then I recommend making sure you focus on having that good range of motion of those pelvic floor muscles, hip mobility in different ways. I'll show you a quick demo of some mobility stuff in a minute. But having good connection and strength of those pelvic floor muscles, but sometimes those muscles are always at an on state, and like I say, they're not able to let go, so that's called a hypertonic or overactive pelvic floor. And sometimes, like, if you don't let go, you just don't have that reaction for them to activate when you want them to, for your skipping, your jumping, all of those exercises that you want to, so you need them to be nice and reactive. Another thing I'll quickly touch on: nutrition, caffeine, sugar, alcohol, all of those sorts of things can overexcite those pelvic floor muscles, so they can also be in a constant kind of turned on state. So again, it's focusing on making sure, is there any triggers in your life, even stress, that might be overexciting these muscles. Okay, so I'm going to quickly run you through some mobility exercises that I recommend to help mobilize this upper body and a little bit of the hips, to help ensure you are breathing well. There's a lot more that we can dive deeper into, and I'm looking at starting up an online program, nice and easy and effective for you to follow along at home, and eventually you will build greater awareness of that core connection, that core coordination that it really takes to build that ultimate control and function for some ladies. Okay, so come down on the floor. We are going to do lay on the side. On your side, a little bit squished in my space here. So on your side, if you've got a pillow for your head, you can use that, and then you're going to reach over behind you and back forward with those arms. So just opening and closing that chest. It's a side lying open book. Okay. So I'm sure you feel a little bit of a tightness in that front of that chest. Sometimes it's at the back of the shoulders. Okay. And then we're going to go up and over like a rainbow. Just stop cutting myself off here. Up and over like a rainbow and back over. If you've got room behind you, really feel that lengthening of those fingers all the way behind you, right back to the floor. Feel that stretch all the way down at your arm. Go with that rainbows. And one more. Awesome. Okay, and of course we will do that on the other side. So take that top leg and put that over on the ground. So we're really isolating the pelvis here. Okay, so that we are all isolating, keeping the pelvis still and moving that upper body. Okay. That's it. And just think about that breathing. Think about keeping relaxed, any tension out of the shoulders and around your ribs at all. All right, and then we're going to come up onto a seated position here. Okay, and then we're going to do a little bit of hip mobility, so side to side, so internal rotation. This knee, bringing your knee towards the center line of your body. Side to side. Make sure your glutes are not clenching all the time, okay? Often clenched muscles tend to be actually weak muscles, so mobility like this, I'm going to come forward and reach forward over the front of your glutes. So you've got that figure four, or we call it a mermaid position. Lean forward over those glutes. Making sure those glutes are not tight, so mobilizing and then strengthening, okay? Because there's another key to it. Posture is also super, super important, especially during and after pregnancy, because so much changes. Okay, so when we go with this overhead stretch, we are thinking about stretching down here, and we're thinking about trying to breathe. Inhale out into that side rib. We're creating space. We're going to come forward again one more time. And over. Swap sides. We are nearly done. Up and over. And come forward. And come forward. All right, and then we're going to round out our back. So making this movement come from your pelvis, so we're tilting pelvis back and forward here. Then rounding as you lift that mid-back, that brow line, rounding, tuck your hip down, rounding that back, so creating that space in your back to breathe. Wow. Okay. So I hope you can see the gist of how ensuring that breath is going to be important. What we can do now is put our hands, one hand on your lower tummy and one hand on the side of your ribs. And I want you to think about breathing in through your nose, past your throat, inflating every little cell in your lungs, and feeling what should be happening is that diaphragms increase, pushing down into your core, putting pressure down into your stomach, and hopefully all the way down into your pelvis. Sometimes lying down or lying on your side is the best way to start learning and understanding that, because there's no gravity, we're not upright. Okay, so have a go sitting with me. So we're going to inhale in through the nose, past the throat, feel that breath go out gently into the side, and you feel your tummy expand slightly under your fingers. And then exhale. Imagine you're blowing out candles and drawing those hip bones together. And your tummy should really gently flatten underneath your hands. Inhale. And imagine blowing out candles. So watch what happens with my core here. Okay, so we're inhaling. And exhale. That pressure's coming off that pelvic floor and that turns on those deep core muscles, that is what we need for that pressure control. And we want to make sure those ribs sink back down as well. Okay, inhale. And that zip up needs to come from the bottom. We don't want to be going and letting the lower tummy zip up last. We want that zip up to come from the bottom, because that, if we clench at the top first, it's going to be harder to turn on those lower core and pelvic floor muscles. Now, I don't want you to be thinking about lift that pelvic floor and activate that pelvic floor muscle with every exercise and move you do. I want you to think more about the breath, because that helps take that pressure off. Now, I'm fully aware in terms of like a skipping motion or something like that, that you can't exhale. So you want to exhale on the impact. You can't exhale with every quick skip, but it's about making sure you're breathing well. Okay, maybe you need to take a wind back and a step back, and I'll make you a video for a basic home core program that you could follow, along with some mobility and some deep core connection exercises, pelvic floor exercises, to help set you up for a good or a better experience if you're at the gym, do CrossFit or whatever you like to do, and you need a little bit more help with that pelvic floor, those pelvic floor symptoms. Okay, but what I was just going to lead into, I could talk all day. Sorry, lead myself into new things. But if you are doing like a jump or a lift, so you're going to inhale down on the easy part, exhale. Same goes for heavy lifting, deadlifts. Inhale down, exhale up, making sure that we're not overreaching, because this throws off this misalignment here, making sure that we're coming right up. To standing posture is another topic which I can go into another time, but inhale on the easy part, exhale on the hard part where you need that strength, and when you tend to be the leakage, where the leakage tends to happen, or the symptoms tend to be worse. Okay, I highly recommend getting this under control and making sure you're all over the awareness of this, because you're only going to age more. Menopause, hormonal changes, everything like that is all going to cause worsening symptoms if you're not in control of it. Prolapse causes some awful symptoms as well. So inhale on the easy part, exhale on the hard part, on your lifts, on your impact, so you can exhale as you do your jumps or box jumps. And if like in the form of skipping, where you're constantly jumping, I would make sure you have good ability to breathe and are not holding tension, thinking like you're trying to hold on for dear life. I want you to try and breathe well and create that good coordination. I hope that makes sense. Please let me know if you've got any questions.